Happy Friday. Welcome into the show. Hope all of you out there getting set to have a fantastic weekend. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. coming at you from the at-home setup and not at the Chat Sports studios because I wanted to hop on the mic, get in front of the camera, and talk about the Eagles' potential interest in Zach Ertz. In case you missed the news yesterday, he requested and was granted his release from the Arizona Cardinals, and there's plenty to dissect with this. First, before we do that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you want daily Eagles analysis, Eagles news, or when there's an Eagles rumor out there that we're going to discuss like we are on today's program, we have you covered here on the show. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll be live for another watch party for Eagles-Niners. Huge matchup in the NFC coming up on Sunday. Our coverage begins with a 2-hour pregame show, 2:25 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you all there. It's going to be an absolute blast. We're giving away a signed Jason Kelce picture of his Super Bowl parade speech. Like I said, make sure you join us. It is going to be epic. So with Zach Ertz here, obvious ties to the Philadelphia Eagles organization. He was a second-round pick by the Birds back in 2013. That was the first year for head coach Chip Kelly, who came to Philadelphia after coaching Oregon for such a long time, and he knocked his 2 draft picks out of the park in the first and second round, selecting Lane Johnson, best right tackle in the game for a really long time, 4th overall, and then taking Zach Ertz in the second round out of Stanford. And Ertz is probably, or arguably, the best tight end in the history of this Eagles organization. You could talk to me about Keith Jackson, and certainly there is an argument to be made there, but Ertz is currently second all-time in franchise history in receptions. He is 10 behind the great Harold Carmichael, who had 589 receptions in an Eagles uniform, to Zach Ertz's 579. And Carmichael did it in 180 games, whereas Ertz only did it in 123 games. Ertz, a 3-time Pro Bowler with Philadelphia, and of course, scored a touchdown in Super Bowl 52 as the Eagles, in that epic game against Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots, able to bring back that first Lombardi trophy and dethrone the best quarterback head coach combination in the history of the NFL. So if Ertz were able to come back to Philadelphia, it would be a great storyline, coming back to where his career started, where he was a pillar for this Eagles organization, but also in the city of Philadelphia off the field alongside his wife, Julie Ertz. But he'd have an opportunity to make history and break that record that is currently held by Harold Carmichael. What's interesting about this story is that J.J. Watt broke the news on Twitter on Thursday, and I did a YouTube short on this discussing the idea and passing along that information, but I wanted to expand on this on today's show because I do believe that there's a lot of fascinating elements to this. Here's what Watt said: trying new things in retirement, so let's steal Adam Schefter's job for a day. Tight end Zach Ertz has requested and has been granted his release by the Cardinals. The 3-time Pro Bowler plans to sign with a contender and make a run at a second Super Bowl ring. And then he said, in parentheses, "This is very easy, Adam." Now, Eagles players, current and former, seem to be putting on a full court press to bring Zach Ertz back to Philadelphia and trying to recruit him back to the Eagles. Lane Johnson added him on Twitter with some eyeball emojis. Torrey Smith said, "I know a place." He played with Ertz on that Super Bowl team. So too did Chris Long, who also said on Twitter to bring him back. Now, I have thoughts on this that I want to expand on, but first I want to hear from you. Should the Eagles sign Zach Ertz? That is today's poll question. Give me an S for sign or a P for pass. And if you want to expand your thoughts as well, you can do that in the comment section. By the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention today's sponsor, Prize Picks, largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America, and we can hook you up with a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS. 2 picks that I really like going into Sunday: Jalen Hurts more than a half rushing touchdown because the brotherly shove, best play in football. Haters continue to hate. I love it. And then Christian McCaffrey has basically been a shoo-in to score touchdowns more than a half rushing touchdown for him. We're going to put that information down in the comment section as well as in the description of this video because we care about you. $100 deposit match. So with Zach Ertz, certainly a lot to comb through here with him maybe coming back to Philadelphia. And why would the Eagles be interested? Ertz first has to go through waivers, and the Eagles right now are 32nd on the waiver claim list. It is the NFL draft order. So the team with the worst record, Carolina Panthers, but now the Chicago Bears, because the Bears have the Panthers pick, would be first in the pecking order. Philadelphia would be 32. A team like the San Francisco 49ers has never been able to figure out backup tight end behind George Kittle. So they're at 30th, and they could look to maybe bring in Zach Ertz ahead of Philadelphia. A team like the Baltimore Ravens just lost Mark Andrews. They're 31st on the waiver claim list. So there could be competition ahead of Philadelphia. But there's also a little bit to this conversation where Ertz and his representation could tell a lot of teams, look, I'm 33 years old. I'm in the twilight of my career. I'd really like to go back to Philadelphia. I'd rather not go to your organization. So you have to factor that into the conversation. Ertz wants to play for a Super Bowl contender. Niners fit that bill. Ravens fit that bill. And then the Eagles are in that conversation as well because I believe they're the best team in football right now. The Dallas Goedert injury plays a role in this situation too. Right before I was about to record this show, Jeff McClain put out a video. And Dallas Goedert is on the field at the NovaCare complex right now with a helmet on, warming up with Philadelphia. There is a chance he returns against San Francisco. If not, I think he's a shoo-in to play against Dallas next week as the Cowboys finally beat a team with the winning record this year, by the way, in taking down the Seahawks last night on Thursday Night Football, giving up 35 points in the process or whatever it was. I think that Dallas is completely overrated. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, they're on another level right now, but they're beating up on bad opponents. Either way, just had to throw in a quick jab to the Dallas Cowboys because that fan base is absolutely intolerable, and I hate the Dallas Cowboys. With Zach Ertz, can he contribute? If Goddard comes back, he's obviously your number one tight end. Zach Ertz, I think, can contribute as a backup tight end and as a pass-catching option out of the slot. I think that the Eagles really value Jack Stoll, so I think they're going to continue to use him because he's really good as a blocker. I think the Eagles brought in Albert Okwuegbunam before the season and traded for him because they really like his unique blend of size, speed, and athleticism as a guy who's 6'6", 250, 260, who in the pre-draft process ran a 4.4 40. What's interesting here, too, is that Grant Calcaterra has been injured. He is out once again against San Francisco. Does he go on IR? Opening up a roster spot at tight end, but a roster spot on this Eagles team for the Eagles to maybe bring in Zach Ertz. And then, of course, you have to factor in the Eagles' interest after Shaq Leonard visited. Also, before I started this show, Jeff McClain said on Twitter, per the Philadelphia Inquirer, that the Eagles are most likely going to put Justin Evans on season-ending IR. That could open up two roster spots, one for Shaq Leonard, one for Zach Ertz. Here's the deal with claiming Zach Ertz on waivers. The contract is not great, but if he passes through waivers, you can get him for cheap, and he can line up out of the slot, and he can be an impactful player as a backup through the pass game. Ertz has always been a route-running technician. He's always done such a great job with his routes and then setting up against linebackers or defensive backs. When they think he's going to go one way, he goes the other way. He's such a smart and heady person and football player where he's able to find that soft spot in his own defense. So I think even though he's 33 years old, he's suffered from some injuries, which we'll get to, he can at least contribute a little bit for this team. But if a team does claim him, they're going to have to pay him a prorated amount of his 2023 cap hit, which checks in at $11.5 million. And then in 2024, another large cap hit of $12.5 million. There is a potential out in 2024, but the team would have to eat a $5 million dead cap hit charge. Again, if you sign him in free agency and he passes through waivers, you could sign him to a vet min deal. For the injuries, piling up a little bit at 33 years old. 2022, suffered a torn ACL. October of 2023 this year, suffered a quad injury. He went on IR. So clearly he's in the twilight of his career, but again, you're not asking him to be a starter. You're asking him to be a backup. And going back to that conversation a little bit earlier, is Ertz the best tight end in the history of Philadelphia? His per season averages from 2013 to 2020 were excellent. This is back when teams were playing 16 games. He was averaging 14 and a half, so he was always available. He played through injuries, played through pain. He didn't do a great job of breaking tackles, but in catching the ball, he was a relied upon target time and time again, regardless of the quarterback that he played for, and he played for a lot. 104 and a half targets per year is what he averaged from 2013 to 2020, 70 catches per season, 759 yards per year, 10.8 yards per catch, and 4.5 touchdowns. But from 2021 to 2023, those numbers have declined. He's averaged 11.5 games. Targets have gone down by 30 to 74.7. Catches have gone down by 21 to 49. Yards have decreased to 452. Yards per catch still pretty good at 9.2, and then 3.3 touchdowns as well. So it's certainly an interesting conversation. I think a lot of Eagles fans out there that I've talked to who have reached out to me, they think that it could potentially be a really good idea, and it would definitely be a very cool story. Here's what I know. If the Eagles sign Zach Ertz, we're going to talk about it, so make sure you subscribe to the channel for daily updates and shows on the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see you on Sunday for our Niners-Eagles watch party. You don't want to miss it, and thanks for tuning in today.